Ladies and gentlemen, the war with Patreon is escalating, and this could be the equivalent of a nuclear bomb dropped in the culture war. This is going to get nuts. Sargon of Akkad and Lauren Southern have entered the fray, declaring war on Patreon. Let me slow down and explain what's happening, but let me not bury the lead. What is about to come and what is underway right now, if the legal pundits are correct, notably Will Chamberlain and Mike Cernovich, we may see the income of many high-profile left-wing channels completely stripped away. I'm talking about some of the biggest left-wing podcasts that exist could lose all of their money. No joke. Let me take you back a couple of years to 2018, the end of the year, when Sargon of Akkad himself got banned. We saw Lauren Southern banned shortly before this. But Sargon was the final straw. When Lauren got banned, people were like, yo, do I gotta leave? Are you gonna take my income away? For those that aren't familiar, Patreon is a service where you sign up. People can donate money to you through the platform. Well, Lauren Southern got banned and everyone got mad. But hey, pencils have erasers. So we said, if you reform and make sure people get fair warning, we'll stay. Shortly after, they banned Sargon of Akkad without notice for completely BS reasons. Apparently on someone else's live stream somewhere else, a year earlier, he said the N-word ironically to insult white supremacists. They banned him for this. Everyone then jumped ship. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Several high-profile podcasts associated with the intellectual dark web and conservatives left the platform out of fear that they would lose their income too. That brings us to what's happening today. Patreon has just lost a major court ruling, which means they have to front the legal fees and the arbitration fees and pay legal fees on 100 or so arbitration claims. This means Patreon will be on the hook for millions of dollars up front, and they don't have it. They don't. Court's final ruling against Patreon opens legal avenue to defend against deplatforming. Patreon now has to pay arbitration fees that could total millions of dollars. Mike Cernovich noted, if Sargon of Akkad's fans filed arbitration claims, this would be the end of Patreon. Why? Sargon had thousands of fans giving him money. When he got banned, they all quit. They now have a legal claim against Patreon for severing their ties to Sargon. The argument brought forward now is, I believe, tortious interference. They're arguing that by banning... So here's what happened. A comedian named Owen Benjamin, who's apparently very offensive. A lot of people don't like him. I'm not trying to, I'm very careful with how the media frames things. So I don't know anything about the guy. But he got booted for hate speech. 72 of his fans filed arbitration claims. Patreon tried to stop this because if it goes through, they've got to pay. They've got to front the costs of arbitration. So that means they'll be on the hook for millions. Sargon, however, had thousands of fans. They could all file the same claims, arguing that by banning Sargon, they severed a third-party agreement, tortious interference. They may not have a claim, but it's a reasonable arbitration. Therefore, Patreon's going to be on the hook for these millions of dollars. If thousands of people now from Sargon of Akkad, who announced this in a video, if these people all file claims, Patreon could be on the hook for $50 to $100 million if thousands of people file these claims. Listen, with only about 100 or so people right now, Mike Cernovich says $5, $10, $15, $20 million because of arbitration costs and because of legal fees. Throw in several thousand people, as well as Lauren Southern's fans, and this could be the end of Patreon. But here is the big play. First, let me show you the breaking news. Lauren Southern says, if you were a patron of mine before I was booted off the platform and you have A, deleted your account, and B, not used it since the recent lawsuits, do not log in, delete your account. As long as you haven't acquiesced to new terms, you can file arbitration. If you fall into this category, you can file yourself, but I've also spoken to legal counsel and would like to connect everyone. Send me an email, and then she posts her email, laurensoutherndocs@gmail.com. So for those that were patrons of Lauren who quit the platform before January 1st, 2020, you can join in this arbitration. Sargon noted the exact same thing. It costs money. Now, here's what this means. You may have heard me talk about this the other day when I mentioned the news. I am not a legal expert. This could all be bunk. If you think Michael Cernovich is correct, then it may not be. And I defer to him because he lives in California and he's a lawyer. And he said straight up, when Patreon filed a lawsuit against Owen Benjamin's fans, he said they're going to lose this suit because it is clear-cut California law what is happening right now. These social justice bros started laughing and mocking Owen Benjamin because they're leftists. Lo and behold, Mike was right. And if Mike Cernovich continues to be right, and I got to be honest, the guy's successful. You got reason to believe him. We may see the end of Patreon. And do you know what this means? I'd like to show you what this means. I bring you now to Graphtreon. The collateral damage of the culture war will be, there's no words to describe it. I likened it to essentially a nuclear bomb being dropped on a city, but it's well beyond that. Take a look at this website, Graphtreon. I've just gone to Graphtreon. It shows us the top Patreon creators and how much money they've made and who they are. First, the number one creator is True Crime Obsessed. They have 37,000 patrons. If Patreon goes belly up due to the extent of these legal costs, which, like I said, if Cernovich is saying, let's go low end, okay? Let's go low end. Cernovich is saying that with about 100 people, 5, 10, 15, 20 million, let's say 5. Let's say it's $5 million in legal fees plus fronting arbitration costs. 100 people. Sargon had a couple thousand, I believe, patrons. Lauren Southern did too. Okay. Multiply that 100 by 40. And what are we looking at? Hundreds of millions of dollars. It could be wrong. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe Patreon can front the money. I'm not sure. The legal costs are hard costs. When it comes to arbitration, they're going to front the cost of arbitration. They may actually win. Maybe they'll get that money back. I doubt it. The people who are filing these claims probably don't have the money to give. And Patreon will have to spend a lot of money to try and get that money back. But hiring the lawyers, filing the paperwork is going to be hard costs they lose. Patreon is about to experience death by 1,000 cuts. Each one of these individuals is going to force Patreon to pay legal fees they will never get back, period. Patreon can try to go after legal fees for each one of these cases, but guess what? They got to pay the lawyers for that too. So they'll try and claim larger amounts. I'll tell you what, man. You're going to go after a dude who works at McDonald's. That's what we're talking about. The guy who is a patron of Sargon of Akkad, who makes, 30, 40,000 a year and does not have the money to pay Patreon, ain't going to be able to pay anything even if they win, and they're going to laugh about it. And Patreon will look ridiculous going after all of these people to recover the costs they know they'll never get. Take a look at who's about to get so listen, if Patreon explodes because of this barrage from arbitration claims, Chapo Trap House, which is the third largest Patreon on Patreon, $158,000 a month, gone. Yagami Yato, I don't know who that is. ASMR, gone. This channel I can't read, Creating Knowledge, gone. Dark Cookie, gone. Brandon Stanton, Conscious Kid, TMG, Amanda Palmer, gone. Kurtzka Saget. These are not all leftists, but I tell you this, right-wing channels left. Intellectual dark web channels left because they were like, I'm not going to risk my income. The leftists felt safe. And I warned all of them, you gotta have a backup. All of these channels. So you've got the Cumboys, MXR Mods, TrueAnon Podcast, Pet Foolery, CGP Grey, Not Another D&D. These are not political. We are the last podcast on the left, perhaps, is political. I'm not sure. ContraPoints. Their entire worlds will implode if this happens. So I've even warned some people, involved. I said, listen, H-Bomber guy's leftist. I don't know who some of these other guys are, but I'll tell you what, man. A lot of the anti-SJW, anti-feminist conservatives, they jumped ship. Now check it out. There may be one out for Patreon in this. Well, there's a couple. A large nonprofit may jump in to save Patreon, realizing that people like H-Bomber Guy and ContraPoints will lose the entirety of their income, or like 90% of it. This is 12,543 patrons for ContraPoints. If we compare this to the last podcast on the left, she's probably making $60,000, $70,000 per month. These are wealthy people. What happens if Patreon gone? All of these creators are without an income. A major, major strike against, for the most part, the left, with insane collateral damage against innocent bystanders. There is a potential safety net. We could see some nonprofits rush to Patreon's aid in an effort to defend against the onslaught. Perhaps it'll work. They might need hundreds of millions of dollars to do this. They won't get back. There is another potential option. Patreon could seize $19 million from their users. Yeah. Unfortunately, the $19 million still isn't enough to fend off all these arbitration claims. As of right now, on the low end, with Cernovich saying $5, $10, $15, $20 million for just Owen Benjamin's alone, then 5 times 40, you see where we're going. What if it was 10 times 40? $400 million? What if it was 20 times 40? Yeah, that's not going to be something they can just pay. Their only chance is that they hit the low end. But I got to tell you, man, maybe this is all wishful thinking. And I don't necessarily mean wishful thinking. I don't want to see these people lose their income. Look at this. We're talking about people who make, like CGP Grey. That channel's great. CGP Grey is awesome. He's going to lose his job. Kurt Skasegat is awesome. I don't know anything about Amanda Palmer or a lot of these other channels. But true crime, these channels seem fine. Why should they be destroyed because of this? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Jack Conte, the CEO of Patreon, decided we will join the fray. They saw a culture war, and he said, I'm jumping in, and I'm going to jump in for them. And now he will reap the rewards. And every single one of these accounts that stays on Patreon is going to lose everything. I'll tell you what. Cernovich may be wrong. I am not a legal expert. I don't know where this goes, but Cernovich called it. He said, this is what's going to happen. He was right the first time. I'm willing to bet he's right now. This is a warning to all of you who have Patreon accounts. It may be in the next several months that with all of these arbitration claims being filed, they cannot stop it. Nothing will. $800 million? And that's it. The axe comes down. And if you have an account and your income is tied to Patreon, you're gone. That's it. No more income. You were warned. It doesn't mean get off Patreon. It's fine if you want to use it. I don't know what you should do. I'm just telling you. If Cernovich is right, Sargon and Lorne have just joined the fray, and their fans are a-coming. This could be the end. I'll leave it there. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.